They're being raised by screens more than by people. Before they can even form full sentences, Gen Alpha children are mastering swipes, taps, and voice commands. This generation isn't just tech-savvy, they're tech-dependent. And that's the problem. The digital world has become their default reality. While previous generations had to earn their place in the online world, Gen Alpha is born into it. By age 5, many have their own tablets. By 8, they've watched thousands of hours of YouTube. Their attention is shaped by fast-paced, overstimulating content, and their brains are being rewired for instant gratification. It's not a question of if this is affecting them. It's how deeply and permanently. These kids are growing up in a dopamine economy. Every swipe, like an autoplay video, gives them a tiny hit of pleasure. But over time, that constant stimulation dulls their ability to focus, to be bored, to explore the world without needing to be entertained. It creates a dangerous cycle. Short attention spans, emotional volatility, and dependency on constant input. Many Gen Alpha children struggle with basic patience or problem solving, not because they're incapable, but because the world they've been given rarely demands it. There's also the issue of social development. Face-to-face interaction is being replaced with emojis, avatars, and filtered versions of reality. Instead of climbing trees, getting into harmless trouble, and figuring out how to navigate real friendships, many are isolated, more connected to Wi-Fi than to people. Social skills that were once learned organically are now being delayed or distorted. And with less time spent in real-world play, empathy, negotiation, and conflict resolution are suffering. Parents often hand over devices just to keep the peace, and it's understandable. Life is busy, and tech is the easiest pacifier. But what starts as convenience can turn into addiction. The device that keeps a child quiet in a restaurant becomes the one that raises them at home. And when that child grows up, they're not just tech literate. They're tech reliant. They don't know how to be bored, sit with discomfort, or engage with the world outside a screen. This isn't about demonizing technology. It's about recognizing the cost of overexposure at such a young age. Gen Alpha's potential is massive, but only if we give them the tools to control technology, not be controlled by it. That starts with us. We need to model healthy screen habits, set digital boundaries, and reintroduce real-life experiences. The brain develops through challenge and struggle, not through endless scrolling. If we don't break this cycle now, we risk raising a generation that's overstimulated but underdeveloped, constantly entertained but emotionally empty. The future isn't just digital. It's dangerously disconnected. And unless we step in, Gen Alpha won't even know what life beyond the screen looks like. Boys don't know what it means to be men anymore. And girls are growing up without clear examples of what strength, leadership, or stability look like. The erosion of traditional values and role models isn't just a cultural shift. It's a ticking time bomb for Gen Alpha. In past generations, kids had a sense of structure. There were standards, expectations, and identities built around duty, discipline, and purpose. Fathers and mothers played defined, complementary roles. Masculinity wasn't toxic. It was protective. Femininity wasn't fragile. It was foundational. But now, everything is blurred. Masculine traits like assertiveness, stoicism, or leadership are often portrayed as outdated or even harmful. Feminine strength is rebranded as independence without interdependence. The result? Confusion, identity crises, and an entire generation adrift in a sea of mixed messages. Gen Alpha is being told they can be anything, but they're not being taught how to be something. The removal of clear role models leaves kids vulnerable to influence from online celebrities, influencers, or ideologies that don't care about their development, just their attention. Instead of learning from mentors, they're learning from TikTokers. Instead of watching strong fathers lead, many are watching absentee figures disappear, either physically or emotionally. And without guidance, they form their sense of identity through curated content and shallow trends. For boys, especially, the damage is critical. Young males are growing up without rites of passage, without challenges that demand responsibility, without older men showing them how to carry weight, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Masculine energy isn't being redirected toward purpose or protection. It's being suppressed, mocked, or left to fester. That's why so many boys are angry, aimless, or addicted. No one ever taught them how to channel their strength or even that they had any to begin with. Girls are also paying the price. Many are raised in environments where father figures are absent or ineffective, and where motherhood is undervalued. They're told they don't need anyone, but deep down, they're craving stability, affirmation, and guidance. Without strong female mentors who embody both strength and grace, they look to social media for identity and are met with vanity, comparison, and confusion. This crisis of role models and values doesn't end with childhood. It affects relationships, work ethic, emotional regulation, and purpose. A generation raised on ambiguity will struggle to build anything solid. And without roots, Gen Alpha risks growing up disconnected from who they are and what they're capable of becoming. The good news is that values can be revived and real role models can still rise. But it has to start with us. We must stop outsourcing mentorship to the media and start living the values we want them to inherit. If we don't model strength, how will they learn it? If we don't stand for truth, discipline, and character, how can they? Gen Alpha can still learn what it means to be grounded, but only if someone is willing to show them the way. School is no longer preparing kids for the real world. It's preparing them for compliance. Gen Alpha is being educated in a system that values memorization over mastery, feelings over facts, and obedience over original thought. The result? A generation that may know how to follow directions, but not how to forge their own path. Education was once a gateway to freedom. It taught students how to think, not just what to think. It demanded focus, discipline, and critical thinking. Now, many classrooms resemble therapy sessions more than learning environments. Emotional sensitivity has overtaken intellectual rigor. Kids are told how to feel, how to behave, how to conform, but rarely are they challenged to push through difficulty, to question assumptions, or to embrace failure as part of growth. For Gen Alpha, the consequences are severe. They're growing up in a system that shields them from discomfort rather than preparing them to face it. Participation trophies have replaced earned success. Safe spaces have replaced real-world consequences. Instead of learning to solve problems, they're taught to avoid offense. And when life outside the classroom doesn't play by those rules, which it never does, they're left overwhelmed and underprepared. At the same time, practical life skills are disappearing. Budgeting, time management, communication, basic trade knowledge. None of these are core parts of the modern curriculum. Instead, students are buried in abstract theories, political ideology, or tech-based learning that replaces curiosity with automation. They're being told they're digital natives, but they're not being taught how to think independently in a world driven by algorithms. Even worse, many schools are subtly encouraging a mindset of victimhood. Instead of empowering kids with resilience, they're reinforcing the belief that they're fragile and the world must adapt to them. This isn't education. It's indoctrination. It doesn't foster independence. It cultivates dependency. And when Gen Alpha steps into adulthood, they'll discover quickly that the world doesn't bend to emotional comfort. Teachers are often stuck in the middle. Many want to teach, challenge, and inspire, but they're forced to follow bureaucratic guidelines, scripted lessons, and rigid testing metrics. The passion for real learning is buried under paperwork and policy. And meanwhile, Gen Alpha is slipping through the cracks, not because they lack intelligence, but because no one is challenging them to use it. There's still time to reverse course. We need to bring back high standards, honest feedback, and intellectual toughness. We need to teach kids how to think critically, how to fail, and how to get back up. Real education isn't about memorizing facts. It's about learning how to navigate life with strength and clarity. If Gen Alpha is going to survive the chaos ahead, they'll need more than grades and gadgets. They'll need grit, wisdom, and real-world skills. But first, we must stop pretending that the current system is enough. Because right now, it's not just failing them. It's setting them up for failure. They're breaking down before they even grow up. Anxiety, depression, and identity confusion are showing up in kids as young as 6. Gen Alpha isn't just facing a mental health crisis. It's living in one. And most people have no idea how deep the damage really goes. This generation is growing up in an environment that constantly overwhelms their developing minds. They're flooded with information, comparisons, and stimulation from the moment they wake up. Social media has replaced silence. Algorithms have replaced attention. and emotional chaos has replaced stillness. The problem isn't just that they're exposed to too much too soon. It's that no one is teaching them how to handle any of it. Instead of developing emotional resilience through experience, struggle, and support, Gen Alpha is being coddled and medicated. They're being told that every uncomfortable feeling is a problem to be avoided, not a signal to be understood. When sadness hits, they're given screens. When frustration hits, they're distracted. When boredom creeps in, they're instantly entertained. The result? A generation with little tolerance for discomfort and no real tools for processing it. What used to be the natural ups and downs of growing up, awkwardness, insecurity, loneliness, are now pathologized or ignored. Parents and schools rush to label and treat instead of guiding and strengthening. The focus is on managing symptoms, not building stamina. And in doing so, we're unintentionally telling Gen Alpha that they're too weak to handle life as it is. Much of this stems from the absence of grounded relationships. In a hyper-connected world, kids are more emotionally isolated than ever. Conversations are replaced with texts. Genuine connection is replaced with likes and views. And when real problems arise, family conflict, bullying, self-doubt, many Gen Alpha kids have no one to turn to who isn't also lost in their own screen. Mental health can't thrive in a vacuum of connection. And then there's the identity crisis. Kids are being bombarded with messages about who they should be, what they should look like, and how they should feel, often conflicting, often extreme, and almost always online. The boundaries between reality and fantasy are blurring, and young minds are struggling to build a stable sense of self. They're encouraged to question everything, but given no foundation to stand on when the questions get too heavy. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about being honest. Gen Alpha's emotional world is collapsing from the inside out, and pretending it's just the way things are now is a dangerous lie. They don't need more content, more diagnosis, or more false positivity. They need the truth. They need strong adults willing to have hard conversations, set boundaries, and be present. They need to know that life is difficult, but that they are capable of handling it. Mental health isn't just about treatment. It's about environment, expectations, and example. If we don't shift course now, we won't just be raising a fragile generation. We'll be raising a broken one. And by the time we realize it, the damage may already be done. We used to build forts, scrape knees, and race bikes until the streetlights came on. Now, Gen Alpha sits indoors, eyes glued to glowing screens, barely moving, barely sweating, barely living in the real world. Physicality, the foundation of childhood, is fading fast, and with it goes strength, confidence, and the instinct to explore. Gen Alpha is the least physically active generation in human history. Childhood used to be kinetic, climbing, falling, running, testing limits. It was through movement that kids learned balance, courage, coordination, and even emotional regulation. But today, most of that has been traded for sedentary stimulation. Screen time has skyrocketed, while outdoor play has plummeted. Playgrounds are empty, while gaming chairs are full. This matters more than most people realize. Physical activity isn't just about health. It's about identity. Especially for boys, the physical world is where strength and self-respect are forged. Wrestling with friends, pushing limits, building things with their hands. These are not just games. They're rites of passage. Without them, boys grow up disconnected from their bodies and, eventually, their purpose. And it's not just about strength. It's about resilience. Scraped knees teach pain tolerance. Climbing teaches risk and reward. Losing a game builds humility. The physical world doesn't hand out trophies for showing up. It teaches through struggle, through sweat, through setbacks. And those are lessons Gen Alpha isn't getting anymore. Instead, many are growing up physically fragile. Posture issues, poor coordination, short attention spans, rising obesity rates. It's all connected to the loss of movement. When your body is weak, your mind follows. Energy turns into anxiety. Restlessness becomes irritability. Emotions feel overwhelming when there's no physical outlet to burn them off. The body was built to move, and when it doesn't, everything suffers. Even more concerning is the loss of connection to nature. Gen Alpha spends more time in virtual worlds than in the real world. They know video game maps better than their own neighborhoods. They've explored fantasy lands, but not forests. Nature teaches presence, perspective, and patience. It grounds kids in something bigger than themselves. But how can they respect the world around them if they never experience it firsthand? The solution isn't complicated. It's just inconvenient. It takes time and effort to get kids off devices and into the dirt. It means saying no to screens and yes to discomfort. It means showing them the value of sweat, of pain, of pushing through. But that's how character is built. Not in comfort, but in challenge. If Gen Alpha doesn't rediscover physicality, they'll grow up trapped in their heads, disconnected from their potential. The body isn't just a vessel. It's a teacher. It sharpens a mind, strengthens a will, and reminds us we are built for more than sitting and scrolling. We are meant to move, to build, to conquer, and so are they. But someone has to show them how. They're being watched before they can even walk. Gen Alpha is the first generation raised entirely under digital surveillance, from baby monitors to algorithm-driven apps that track their habits, preferences, and movements. Before they know who they are, the internet already has a file on them. Privacy, once a basic human right, is now a forgotten concept. And freedom of thought is quietly being shaped by machines that most parents don't even understand. This generation isn't just growing up online. They're growing up inside a system that monitors, influences, and predicts their behavior at every turn. Every search, every scroll, every hesitation on a video is recorded, analyzed, and fed back to them in the form of targeted content. The algorithm knows what they'll click before they do. That kind of digital manipulation doesn't just influence tastes, it shapes identity. We used to worry about peer pressure. Now it's algorithmic pressure. What Gen Alpha sees, believes, and desires is being filtered by invisible code written by people they'll never meet. Their worldview is narrowed without them knowing it. Their curiosity is directed, not discovered. Their choices are designed to feel like freedom, but they're anything but. Add to this the normalization of constant surveillance in everyday life. Smart devices listen, track, and report. Schools use monitoring software. Parents install apps that track location, screen time, and online behavior. While the intent may be safety, the outcome is dependency and compliance. When you grow up always being watched, you start to believe that privacy is dangerous and obedience is safe. That's not just a tech issue. It's a mindset shift that can have lifelong consequences. Even more dangerous is the way AI is beginning to replace authentic thought. With tools that write, generate images, suggest ideas, and solve problems instantly, Gen Alpha is being tempted to outsource their creativity and thinking. Why wrestle with a question when AI can answer it? Why write a story when a bot can do it faster? But when they stop doing the hard mental work, they lose the muscle. They lose the ability to wrestle with big ideas, to sit in uncertainty, to develop a personal voice. This generation is facing something no previous generation has: the merging of surveillance, artificial intelligence, and curated reality. If they don't learn how to critically question what they see, hear, and consume, they'll grow up not knowing what's real, only what's fed to them. That's not just dangerous for individuals. It's dangerous for society. We cannot stop technology from advancing, but we can teach Gen Alpha how to use it without becoming used to it. That means giving them space to think, question, and disconnect. It means encouraging original thought and rewarding curiosity over conformity. If we don't act now, we won't just raise a generation of screen addicts. We'll raise a generation that's never known what it means to be truly free. No one's coming to save them because we're the ones they're waiting for. Gen Alpha doesn't need more programs, more apps, or another awareness campaign. They need men and women, real adults, who are willing to step up, show up, and take responsibility for shaping the future. Not through words, but through action. Not someday, but now. We talk about the problems: tech addiction, broken families, a failing education system, emotional fragility, and identity confusion. But if we see the darkness closing in and do nothing, we're part of the problem. Gen Alpha is still forming. They're not lost yet, but they will be if we don't intervene with strength, truth, and presence. Responsibility starts at home. Fathers and father figures, especially, have to reclaim their role as leaders. Not tyrants, not absent ghosts, but steady, disciplined, dependable examples of what real masculinity looks like. Protective, grounded, and present. Boys need to be shown how to carry weight. Girls need to be shown how they should be treated. And both need to witness what it means to live with conviction, not convenience. We have to bring back resilience. That means letting kids fail. It means not jumping in every time they're uncomfortable. It means challenging them to stretch, to suffer a little, to figure things out without everything being handed to them. Real growth comes from resistance, and we rob them of their future when we remove every obstacle from their path. It's also time to reintroduce realness. Talk to them about truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Let them see a struggle, wrestle with life, and keep going. Let them know life isn't a curated feed. It's hard, it's messy, and it's worth fighting for. Gen Alpha doesn't need perfection. They need authenticity. They need to see that strength isn't about always being right. It's about standing firm when it counts. And we need to protect their minds. That means monitoring not just screen time, but screen content. Teaching them how to think critically. Teaching them that just because something's popular doesn't make it right. Giving them space to ask hard questions and helping them discover solid answers, not shallow slogans or empty trends. This is a generation that will inherit everything we leave behind. If we abandon them to chaos, confusion, and comfort, they'll collapse under the weight. But if we raise them with clarity, character, and courage, they'll carry the future farther than we ever could. The world isn't getting easier, but we can raise kids who are tougher, wiser, and more grounded than the world expects. The question isn't, can Gen Alpha be saved? The real question is, will we rise to the challenge? Because the answer lies not in the future, but in what we choose to do today. If we don't act, the future won't simply unfold. It will unravel. Gen Alpha isn't just facing a tough road ahead. They're being born into a storm without a compass. The silence of strong adults, the retreat of real values, and the rise of digital confusion have left them stranded in a world that looks connected but feels completely hollow. And the truth no one wants to say out loud? If we don't fight for them now, no one else will. We're not powerless. In fact, we hold the key to turning this around. But it requires something uncomfortable: responsibility. Not just as parents or teachers, but as men, as leaders, as protectors of what matters. It means turning off the noise and stepping into the hard, quiet work of mentoring, guiding, and setting the standard again. It means being what we wish we had when we were young, present, principled, and unshakably grounded. Don't wait for a new policy. Don't wait for the system to fix itself. Systems reflect people, and people change through action. Build something. Start something. Speak up. Be the reason one kid doesn't spiral. Show one boy how to lead. Show one girl what real protection looks like. We don't need to save the entire generation in one moment. We just need to take the first step in our corner of the world. Because while the future looks dark, the match is still in your hand. Light it. Tools,